Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. The Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zaki and Bryan are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to Movie Film, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. My name is Zaki Hassan. Joining me, as always, my good friend Brian Hall.
Hey.
Wow. That's a lot of enthusiasm, Brian, for this late in the evening.
Well, I mean, we just had the Thanksgiving weekend, the break. I'm refreshed. I'm relaxed. I'm excited to be back here talking movies with you. Come on.
Well, and I ask you this every year. What did you do on Black Friday?
It feels like in years past, there's always been like one thing. I'm like, okay, let's see if I can nab this guy or whatever. But I didn't really participate this year. There's only one year I've actually left the house to go to Black Friday, and it was out of sheer curiosity because a friend of mine and I were staying at a place, and there was like a Target 10 minutes down the road. We're like, let's just see. Let's just go. And it's really weird because it's like we went and it was manageable. We got a parking spot. I was like, wow. But we went inside. I don't know. Maybe this is silly, but like I actually felt kind of scared. I was like, I'd seen all these videos and like people just tackling each other. And I was kind of nervous walking through the store and there was no craziness that was going on. And so we're like, well, look at this, like PlayStation games for $20. And we're like these Blu-rays and that. So we grabbed a handful of things, walked up to the registers and we're like, oh, that's a long line. So we're following the line and the line literally went around the store, the whole store. And so we just put our items down and walked out.
So the deal wasn't worth that.
Nah. It's more the novelty of it, I think. But what about you?
Well, it's interesting because I haven't done the leaving the house thing on Black Friday for a while because, as you know, once my pajamas are on, they stay on. and so that's my policy when it comes to that. But even online, there wasn't anything that made me say, oh my gosh, I need to do that right away,
Sure.
Which I guess is a statement to just that we're content.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something we find, right? Every year. It's like when people ask what I want for Christmas or my birthday, I'm always like, I don't know. Like, I just want you to have dinner with me.
And then a tear rolls down. Seriously, please have dinner.
Yeah, no, please have
Why
dinner
don't
with
you
me.
love me, Dad?
Where are you going? Yeah.
So that's but we were talking about this before we started recording. You and I think the last time we saw each other was exactly a year ago.
1 year ago.
And it was on the occasion of our first hint of footage from Star Wars Episode 7.
I was just talking about this with you and with someone at work, and it was like we've been carrying those visuals for a year now.
Right.
A whole year, and we still haven't seen the movie. Isn't that crazy?
We're so close.
I know.
It's almost here, Brian.
I know. I can't even believe it. I mean, I'm looking at my calendar and it's like literally 2 weeks away from this Thursday. That's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and of course that'll be our next episode, but no sense getting ahead of ourselves.
Wait, no. Let's take 1 second to realize that our very next episode we will be talking about the next Star Wars film. Ready? Just
That's pretty amazing. And by the way, thanks for all the kind words about our commentary track that we recorded last week for Star Wars Episode 4, or Star Wars as we call it. The feedback has been really sweet, and several people have asked whether we will be doing the next ones. And that was not the plan, right, Brian? I mean, I think we were just kind of doing this as a one-off.
Further Star Wars films, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we just thought we'd do. We actually decided, we were like, we should do a Star Wars film, and we're like, well, naturally, we should do Star Wars, the first one.
Yeah, it would have been. I think it would have been either Star Wars or The Phantom Menace.
That would be an interesting one, wouldn't it?
But and I actually thought about it. I was just like, there has been so much crap shoveled onto Phantom Menace. Let's do something different. Let's put some love into the air.
Okay.
That was my feeling. I was like,
I would kind of like to revisit it, to be honest. I haven't seen it in its entirety. I don't even know. Years and years.
I just revisited recently, and I'm good, thank you. So
yeah, I do remember liking some things from it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's aspects of it that are fine, but regardless, people have been asking whether we'll do more Star Wars commentaries, and I'm not opposed to it. I think Brian, I'm sure you would agree that any chance to pop on The Empire Strikes Back and talk through it, I would have absolutely no problem doing that.
Let's do it right now.
Yeah, forget this week's show. So look for that at some later date. Definitely not like in the immediate future, but probably coming up soon.
Yeah.
But there is a whole bunch of other stuff that is out and has been out. I mean, what's new that you've caught recently, Brian?
Well, I saw a couple things, so I'll try to breeze through these. But let's start as we were talking about Thanksgiving. My friend and I, my friend's family has me over every year because I'm a transplant out here, and my family's back in the Midwest, and so we had done an enormous dinner, literally cleaned 2 hours worth of dishes, and so we were really tired. We plopped on the couch. We're like, okay, let's watch something. Like, what are we going to watch? What do we want to watch right now? And we turned on the TV and we saw Pixels was playing on demand. And we're like, you know what? We were our brains were turned off. We're like, yeah, this is it. So
you poor bastard.
Yeah. So we got Pixels off of VOD. Have you seen this?
Have I seen Pixels?
Yes.
I most certainly have.
Which is, I don't remember talking about it. Unfortunately, sorry about that. But it was directed by Chris Columbus, who did Harry Potter, Home Alone, wrote Gremlins, and stars Adam Sandler. So you got this crazy high concept special effects action film that's an Adam Sandler movie.
Yes.
And, the concept being that aliens invade Earth through the guise of old Atari video game villains and heroes and whatnot. So Pac-Man, Centipede coming down to Earth. And man, it's funny when it was over, my friend and I were like, well, what'd you think? I was like, I didn't hate it. Like I didn't hate it. Like it's because I think it shows you what you want to see. Right. And I really enjoyed the Pac-Man sequence when Pac-Man was chomping down through the city streets, and they used the city streets as the Pac-Man grid. But man, was it a mistake to make this an Adam Sandler movie? I'm serious. And I'm not even a guy who's going to like hate on Adam Sandler. Like I don't really like his movies like I used to, and that's fine. But like this could have been a completely different movie. Like if you had thrown, I don't even know, like Chris Pratt, blah, blah, blah. Like someone like, you throw someone like Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill in Pixels, and then you got a movie you want to go see.
Yeah.
But like the Adam Sandler thing, and what I mean mostly is the humor was just way, way lazy and just kind of off and just dead in the water.
So it was Adam Sandler humor.
Yeah, recent Adam Sandler humor. And also, he plays the hero and a love interest. And you got, let's be honest. Like Adam Sandler recently always looks like he's tired. Yeah. And he just showed up to work and they said action. He's like, hey, okay. And it's like, and this woman's like falling in love with him, and I'm like, no.
And Michelle Monaghan.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I'm pretty sure
to find his sort of sleepy eyed, like I showed up, like charming, and so it was frustrating because there was a better version of this movie.
Well, to me, it's a premise that has about 2 minutes worth of interest, which is, hey, what if space aliens were the aliens from video games?
But I still feel like you could stretch it out. I really feel like I said, if you had the Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill version of this and like a better screenwriter, you could do something with that and like make it fun. And it's probably going to be instantly forgettable, but that's all right. Just something better than what we were given, which is kind of unfortunate. But I'm telling you, like if it's on HBO or TBS or something and you're looking to kill 40 minutes before the thing you actually want to watch, like there's bits of this that are fun.
I'll go along with that. I disliked it more than you, Brian, but
yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm saying like I liked it too much. I'm not endorsing this movie. I'm frustrated at the version that never will be. But anyway, moving on. So let's keep going up here. Steve Jobs. I watched Steve Jobs.
Now I loved Steve Jobs.
I did too, and this is a really interesting movie because, as I think we've mentioned, this isn't the Apple story.
Right.
And I think I've talked to people who are disappointed that it wasn't, and I totally get it. because that's, and I've read the Steve Jobs biography, which I highly recommend. And you will get the Apple story there, but this is kind of like a play, and there's like 3 acts to it. And it's, the moments leading up to 3 of his big presentations, and it's a character study. And you get the whole Aaron Sorkin rat-a-tat dialogue and, quips and whatnot. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I could see a lot of people coming into this thinking they're going to get some sort of biopic, and it's not that.
And I think that's the reason the movie has tanked horribly, which is unfortunate because I blame Ashton Kutcher. I blame Ashton Kutcher for most things, to be honest, in my life, even,
Except that when his interview was on our show, that was easily our highest.
That's true. When I say blame, I love Ashton Kutcher. And
I love that. Kutch. But yeah, no, this is great. I mean, this is like, it's like watching the film version of a play, honestly, is what it feels
really
like.
is. Yeah.
And what's his name? I can't think right now.
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender is great. Yes. And Steve Jobs. Well, all my attention is going toward Kate Winslet, who is fantastic.
She's really good in it.
Yeah. We talked about last week how in Star Wars, they only give you this thing in front of you, but they do such a good job of painting the world outside of the borders that you can imagine and piece together. I felt that about her character. I was like, I get this woman, even though she's only showing up in these moments to sort of argue with Steve Jobs, but she felt like a fully realized person. I think she was great. I wouldn't be surprised if she got like a best supporting. She's
great. Michael Stuhlbarg, who who's had a heck of a year because he's also in Trumbo, which we'll talk about in just a sec. I really liked him. Jeff Daniels, I thought was great. I mean, really just from and Seth Rogen is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no complaints about anybody in the cast.
Yeah, it's great. So people should see that. And then lastly, I saw The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, what'd you think of this one? I'm curious about this.
This was one of those things that I missed in theaters, and I kept saying, I'm going to love this streaming on Amazon. Like,
okay.
This is going to be the perfect Friday night. Like, oh, that's there. And that's literally what happened. I was like, oh, it's there. And it's that. It's totally that. Like, for anybody who missed this in theaters, this isn't something you're going to be thinking about a week later, but you're going to love it for like the 90 minutes to 2 hours that you're watching it. Like, it's just this total style exercise with these kind of fun, not super deep characters by any means, but like enjoyable caricatures realized by Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer playing the Russian spy and Henry Cavill playing the American spy. And he does this really fun sort of like 60s suave James Bond kind of accent, like, well, hello there kind of thing. And like,
great,
cracked me up the whole way through. And Alicia, I'm not sure, Vikander.
Yeah.
Plays
from Ex Machina.
Yes. Ex Machina is great in it as well. And this is just kind of like breezy, fun spy thing. So, nowhere near, like Mission Impossible 5 or anything like that.
No.
Like in terms of
but it's just fun.
Whatever. It's just breezy fun.
Yeah, really Armie Hammer's really good in it. A great relationship. I'm disappointed it didn't do better because I think both of the lead actors deserve something that makes them bigger names. You know what I mean?
Well, that, and also when it was over, I was disappointed that I wouldn't get to watch them again.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I'd love to watch them do another adventure.
Yeah. So, very totally agree. Yeah. Actually, speaking of Alicia Vikander, I saw her in a film called The Danish Girl.
Oh, right. She's the co-lead, I guess you'd say, right?
She's the co-lead with Eddie Redmayne. Now, this is a film that's directed by Tom Hooper, who did Les Miserables, which also starred Eddie Redmayne. And I went into this with no idea what it was about.
Okay.
Right. So now what it's actually about, it's about the first person to undergo gender reassignment surgery, like in history.
Right.
And, that process, and Eddie Redmayne plays that person who transitions. Now, I had no idea about this going in. So
okay.
all I was told is the new Tom Hooper movie, and it's called Danish Girl, and it's playing at this time. And I said, all right, I have a window. I'll check it out. Uh-huh. So all I know is the title. So I go in, and there's Eddie Redmayne, and they're in like the mid 20th century, and walking along, and there's his wife Alicia, and I'm like, I guess she's the Danish girl. Okay. And they're painting. I'm like, okay, it's about a couple that paints, and then And then like 15 minutes in, Eddie Redmayne is like putting on women's clothing. And I said, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Oh, that's what this is about." Okay.
Right.
So I had no idea. And,
okay, let's put it this way. So obviously, not knowing what the story you're watching, that would come as, I think, a surprise.
Yes.
So how does the movie carry it out? I mean, were you able to track with it and track with the characters?
Honestly, it was fine. Like it felt a little Oscar baity to me.
I could see that.
And it's very much Eddie Redmayne trying to get a second Oscar in a row, and he's fine. And she's actually very good in it, Alicia Vikander. I could easily see her getting nominated. I'm just not a big Tom Hooper fan. I think.
Yeah,
I see that. I mean, like I don't really have any complaints about the movie, but it's not something that I'm in a hurry to rewatch. So that's kind of my mixed to negative, I guess, on it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I mean, when we're talking about kind of an Oscar bait movie, one that I really did enjoy is called Trumbo, which is playing in limited release right now. It's directed by Jay Roach, who did the Austin Powers films and the first two Meet the Parents movies. He did Recount and Game Change, which are HBO movies, which I loved. And I highly recommend this one.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. It stars Bryan Cranston. Who he plays Dalton Trumbo, who if you don't know who Dalton Trumbo is, you should, because he's one of the most important screenwriters in Hollywood history. And his place in history is partly because of the films he wrote, which includes Spartacus, that's probably the highest profile, Roman Holiday also, which he wrote under a pseudonym. But his claim to fame, so to speak, is that he was blacklisted during the era of the blacklist. He was he was blacklisted during the era.
Accused of being a communist?
Well, he was a communist.
Oh, okay. Right. I don't know his story, so.
Yeah. I mean, he was a communist, but it wasn't like we get moose and squirrel, like that kind of communist. He just, at the time, there was the Communist Party in the United States, and that's what he, and it's a fascinating portrait of a time in Hollywood history that we're not necessarily intimately familiar with. And then it's just a chance to just see Bryan Cranston, who you and I both love, do an awesome performance, which will absolutely be, one of the ones talked about at the end of the year. And it's, and there's lots of familiar faces in there. Helen Mirren is in it, and David James Elliott, who you might remember from JAG, plays John Wayne.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting casting, but really, I mean, there's like a political message in there, but I mean, beyond that, it's just a very compelling drama. Louis C.K., by the way, is in it, and he has this great dramatic turn. He's really good in it too.
Nice.
So definitely we're checking out. And actually, I had the opportunity to talk to Jay Roach about the film, and it was just I'm such a fan of his films. It was just great to be able to talk to him, but really shared some real insights about making the film, what went into it, why Dalton Trumbo is somebody who should be admired, and some of the political stuff that went into it. So I wanted to go ahead and play my interview with Jay Roach.
Back in 1997, I remember being in the opening weekend audience for Austin Powers, and like it was like a half-empty theater.
Yeah.
And so I remember the way that movie just organically became this phenomenon, and I always felt a little bit of pride because I was like, I was there.
You were there at the beginning. That's great, because we never previewed very well either. Comedies usually preview the ones, the sort of mainstream ones in the 70s if it's not going so well, and up to the 90s if it's going well. And we never previewed at a higher score than 55.
Wow.
Because it was such a weird tone to some people. They'd known Mike, and they expected something closer to Wayne's World.
Sure.
And it wasn't reviewed that well. It's where I learned to not read reviews, because I just liked the specificity of it, and sometimes to be really specific you have to risk dividing the audience a little bit. And then it was very gratifying to see that it caught on in video. That's what happened. The video is what DVD was just starting up,
Yeah.
and everybody bought DVDs. So by the time the second one came out, there was a really nice.
It was a phenomenon by then.
And then we previewed, of course, no better film. The second was a good film with Mini-Me. I love the Mini-Me stuff, but it was, it was. I was really happy with it, but it wasn't. We got like a 90 or something suddenly in the previews, and it wasn't that different. So then I also stopped trusting the preview scores.
Well, and is it because you didn't have to sell the concept anymore?
Exactly.
Right.
And it was an acquired taste. I really think that more than a lot of comedies I've been connected to, it took time for people to go from I don't get it, I don't understand it, to I remember my own agent said, I think it'll be good in Europe. Like he didn't think Americans would like it at all.
Yeah.
To, oh my God, we're so happy we're part of it. Everyone claimed to be part of the.
I know, isn't that funny?
Yeah, the original lovers of Austin Powers.
So, as far as with Trumbo, first of all, I was just blown away by it. I was thinking about it, and I'm looking forward to rewatching it. I feel like this film, in a lot of ways, is a synthesis of your comedic side and your dramatic side, in that it sort of walks this almost like a tightrope, where I could very easily see the broad version of this. And I guess my question is, how do you know how to modulate that tone?
Yeah. For me, it was pretty straight up. I just wanted to be true to the guy, to his sensibility. Everything in the film is a manifestation of his attitude. So the tone, the comedy, all the comedy in the film is kind of the smart-ass variety, this sort of dry, dark wit that these men all had, and including Frank King, who has one of the biggest responses in the movie, is when he takes on a union leader, because he says, just try to shut me down and make me fire all these blacklisted writers. I'll just go out and hire hookers and hobos. I don't care. Nobody. My movies are garbage anyway, and you can say whatever you want in the press because none of the people who see my movies can read. I just love that speech. It was completely scripted, and he delivers the hell out of it. Oh, I know. And it's John Goodman, and it embodies an attitude, an accidental heroism, in a way, because he was an opportunist. He was exploiting these guys, paying them nothing, even though they were really successful, great writers, and he turned out to be the wisest of the producers and studio types that Trumbo was involved with, because he just didn't think it was fair what was going on with these guys, and he was willing to employ them. He got cheap writing, and so anyway, it was just that it turned out to be funny was because he was such a fearless, sort of somewhat just a smartass, and Trumbo was like that too, but in a different way. He's much more, thoughtful wit, much more trying to expose the lunacy and absurdity of a system using his very carefully crafted. There's a great crafted descriptions of absurdity. There's actually a great letter or an interview he's once said. It looks easy to make people laugh while you're writing satire, but it's much, much more time-consuming than anything else I write, because to get to absurdity, you have to actually be extremely precise. Sure. I was like, that makes sense, because I'm just coming from comedy. Comedy is so much harder in a way, because it's so precision-oriented, and you have to keep it up. You can't just tell the story. But again, just to emphasize, the really important thing I hope comes across is that all the Hollywood 10 writers were funny men as well as being serious men, because the only way they could cope with the absurdity of the situation was to talk about it, and to talk about it in ironic terms. There's no broad comedy in the film. Yeah. There's only that kind of dark comedy. But I'm always gratified that it plays and that audiences are engaged enough to kind of go with it. But it's a really sad, tragic, dramatic story. We just heard that we're in the. If we get considered in the Golden Globes, we'll be in the. I think we're going to be in the dramatic wing. Sure. So I'm glad, because it's a drama through and through, but it just happens to have some comedy in it.
What do you say to people, and I'm speaking from my own experience because I was sort of trumpeting the film on social media, and somebody said, well, he was a communist, he was anti-American.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me that
Still
mentality
exists.
is still out there.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
what do you say to people who are going to come at you and say, why do I want to spend 2 hours on this story?
Well, I first say that being a communist at that time was, one, not illegal, was two, very closely, we were allied with a communist country in 1943, so everyone was everyone was somewhat sympathetic to communists during the years we actually allied with a communist superpower. Not everyone, but you know what I mean. It was not an extreme idea. But by the early 40s, the Cold War definitely made some people terrified of totalitarian communism, which was a genuine threat. Russia was occupying all of Eastern Europe. But communism also was pro-union, pro-civil rights. One of the few organizations that was fighting for civil rights at the time, back when defending old-fashioned, Jim Crow laws and all that was still very, very common. And the people who resented their push for workers' rights and resented their push for civil rights and resented that they were so strongly anti-fascist found it convenient to use the real threat of totalitarian communism to try to tar them as connected to that, when none of them, as the committee showed by not being able to prove any subversion, none of them were trying to overthrow the country at all. They were mainstream Hollywood writers. He wrote patriotic war films like 30 Seconds Over Tokyo and A Guy Named Joe, and he wrote very mainstream movies like Roman Holiday, and the only film that even had any kind of rebellion in it was Spartacus, because they were slaves. So he couldn't have been more
and they came to him with
mainstream. Oh yeah, of course. But he did it, and ironically, that film that features a rebellion and a little bit of collectivism, is the film for which he's credited finally after 13 years. But the point is that I think there are some people in the world today still that are so accustomed to using, communism and communist, socialist, whatever their sense of an epithet you can hurl at somebody, to try to shut them down, to get them to conform. Because even being a communist at that time was American. Trumbo was a complete patriot, and dissent was American. It wasn't. The Bill of Rights protects free speech when it's unpopular, because popular speech, this is a Trumbo quote, popular speech doesn't need protecting. We all agree on that. It's designed to protect the weird extreme people. And that's why the ACLU still, they didn't actually fight that hard at that time, but they fight today for even the most extreme opinions to be allowed to be presented. For that reason, that's American, And so that's why all those actresses and actors, Lucille Ball, Cary Grant, Lauren Bacall, Humphrey Bogart, that long list of actors goes on that radio show that we quote in the middle of the thing, saying the un-American activity going on right now is the House Un-American Activities Committee. And that's a great quote too. I love the way that Lucille Ball says it in the film. So I always say, check your history, because at that time, these were some of the most patriotic people in the country.
I think also in terms of your usage of John Wayne in the film as a character, I think I appreciated the fact that he's an antagonist, but he's not a quote-unquote villain, and I think the complexities were really reflected through him.
I hope so. I like the way he is sort of attacked by Hedda Hopper for being soft. Because he was a little softer. She was, for her, once a commie, always a commie. For him, you could rehabilitate yourself just by demonstrating some signs of loyalty to. But he was pretty tough on people, who weren't willing to sort of sign a loyalty oath. And no one disagrees with that, including his own biographers. And he even was in a movie as a HUAC investigator called Big Jim McClane.
Wow.
In Hawaii, and it was a movie. His character drives the story, and so that's never been controversial what his role in it was. But I love the way the guy plays it, David James Elliott, because he's a real person, I love that scene where Trumbo says to him, "We both have the right to be wrong."
Right.
And that's the whole point. That's what he said. I love that idea, and that John Wayne is the guy who has to hear that. So, but I also think Hedda is really interesting because she's so much more zealous than John Wayne ever was. So we try to find that balance. And I think one of the stories that is the most haunting is the Edward G. Robinson story.
Absolutely.
Because he's the guy who really is tempted to sell out, and succumbs to that temptation. That's the real cautionary tale. Yeah. Trumbo is pretty firm and reliant on his principles, but it's heartbreaking watching a good guy, a really good guy. Edward G. Robinson was a good man and fought with these guys, for these guys, backed them up. But then after being threatened with losing his career, he was blackmailed in a way into naming names, which is, I'm sure from his autobiography, he was haunted by it, from then on.
And I mean, arguably his career never really recovered.
Yeah, he got some great character roles, but he wasn't, and he couldn't write, he couldn't act with pseudonyms and fronts, because as he says, this is who I am. Directors are the same. Edward Dmytryk, there was 9 writers and 1 director, was my directing teacher at U.S.C.
Yeah, I read about that, that's right.
And he seemed, I may have been projecting, but he seemed a little haunted by it.
Really?
So I think that's the cautionary tale. I love Trumbo's final speech. Instead of taking revenge, he says these very wise things about how they were all, stuck in this terrible situation. So I hope it resonates. I do feel like it's relevant because I read, I think it was Ben Carson said something like, all universities, any university that has any demonstrable political bias or extreme speech should have its federal funding canceled. It was like, wow, that's it. Who decides what's extreme speech? What if he's at a university someday and some of his ideas are pretty far out, but he has a right to those ideas. Yeah. Do you really want to, universities depend on federal funding. Don't we want to invest in universities so people can have a clash of even the craziest ideas? And isn't that what a university is for? So it's definitely about today, as much as it is anything else. And I think using fear of, in a lot of cases, fear of the immigrants or fear of people of other races or fear of other religions, like Islam is, terrorism makes people, tempts people to use fear of terrorism to smear all the 99.999% of Islam, who are very peaceful people.
I'm Muslim, and as I was watching the film, I was thinking of that. I was absolutely thinking of that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of my kids, and I was, and the idea that we seem to be in this history just is cyclical, and we just switch out the
one day they may say, name all the Muslims and I say, well, I once had this interview with a guy, that it could get to you and me being blacklisted because we're not American enough.
Yeah.
I suppose it could get to that. I like to think what you do as a journalist and a storyteller yourself is similar to what Trumbo tried to do, is just be a voice of sanity, a voice of humanity and protection of liberties, protection of justice, protection of the or inspiration to make protecting people's dignity, human dignity, to be the highest priority. That is I think what the careers we have chosen.
Ideally, right?
Ideally.
Can you talk a little bit about your process working with Bryan Cranston to shape the sort of the persona, the larger-than-life persona? What was it? Did he have it sort of prefigured?
No, he just wanted to be true to the guy, and Trumbo was very much an old-school kind of orator. He never just talked. He would perform his ideas. He was big, we talked a lot about that, and I'm sure it might get to some people a different way, but for me it was refreshing to see someone not worried about being cool and subtle. He didn't care about being subtle, and that made him interesting to me because he was so out front with his views, and he really believed in ideas and the power of ideas and the clash, the debate of of ideas as a kind of dialectical process where out of the clash new things, better things come up. That's again why you want to protect the ability to be a dissenter in your civilization, so that the in the marketplace of ideas, there's a genuine battle, so that the stronger ideas win, the best ideas win, as opposed to just do it our way because you should be afraid, and if you don't do it our way, the thing that's going to get you is the thing we're all afraid of, or whatever, just using fear to pound people. So, I forgot what your question was exactly, but...
working with Bryan Cranston.
Oh, yeah. So Bryan studied the speech patterns and the drive to be that persuasive, to be that good with language, and to have that melody and the words, and he really every choice that I made and he made was to try to be as authentic as we possibly could. And his daughters saw the performances, and oh my God, he's so much like our father. It's surreal and disturbing. So that was really reassuring. Same with all the people who played real life people. That we really just tried to get the authenticity. Kirk Douglas, John Wayne,
and I think it came through. Like nobody's gonna mistake David James Elliott for John Wayne. Yeah, but he became John Wayne. He channels him, is the way I like to put it. He didn't put on the John Wayne mask or the John Wayne iconography. Right. He puts on some of it enough that you buy it. Right. But he channels him, and that's what you want, the character, the real life character, to overtake the body of the current character, but to have that body still be part of the deal, part of the chemistry of how they come off. And that, I think that's the only way a good actor can do a human performance, an authentic performance. I saw it with Julianne Moore as Sarah Palin, Ed Harris as John McCain, and all these guys. The guy who plays Preminger was amazing, to me. But the hard ones, the brave ones, the ones that I was so scared wouldn't work, were Kirk Douglas and John Wayne. And I think they did. I think both of them.
Kirk Douglas loved the guy who played him. He thought he was great. He just said, "Couldn't you have cast me?" He's 99 years old. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, man.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so that's my interview with Jay Roach. Again, check out Trumbo. It's playing in limited release, and I don't know how wide it's going to go, but it's worth seeking out.
Cool. Sounds good.
And joining us on the line, we have Samir Gardezi. Samir, it's been almost 2 years since you joined us last, and we're happy to have you back.
Pleasure to be here.
So for those of you who do not remember, because it was a long time ago, Samir is an international award-winning screenwriter. He's written for several networks, including Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, the CW, Fox, ABC, and NBC, and studios such as 20th Century Fox, Universal, and Disney. He's worked on such critically acclaimed shows as the Peabody Award-winning Aliens in America, Matthew Perry's Mr. Sunshine, Outsourced, The Goodwin Games, and Modern Family, to name a few. For his work on Modern Family, he was awarded a Writers Guild Award for his excellence in writing. Most recently, he collaborated with The Daily Show's Trevor Noah to create the untitled Trevor Noah Project. And he's here to talk up a brand new webinar that's going to be this coming weekend. So, Samir, can you give us the skinny on that?
Absolutely. So the reason how this all came about was that I had realized that I had spent 10 years working in the industry, and I haven't really spent 10 years doing anything short of maybe eating a McDouble for McDonald's. So I felt like it was I felt like I needed to tell people, and of course my wife didn't care, so I went to the internet for validation. And I just feel like in those 10 years I've accrued just kind of these knots of knowledge, and I call them knots because I don't think that this webinar I'm presenting is trying to be the Robert McKee and find the story in your soul. I'm not selling that, and I don't think I can sell that. I think that really what I want to do is hey, these are kind of some tips and tricks that I kind of have up my sleeve when it comes to orienting yourself and trying to build a writing sample packet, finding representation, whether it be managers or agents, networking. What does that mean? And my favorite probably is branding yourself, because these are all things that I didn't quite learn how to do until much later, unfortunately. And so, my loss is your gain, and this one. But I think that when I talk to most writers, I think the biggest question that comes up always is after how do I break in? It's what is it like to be a writer, whether it's a screenwriter or a television writer? And it's very little writing at times, and that sounds very weird and confusing, but it's a long road to actually get to the writing phase of everything. And a lot of it is just really selling yourself as a personality, selling yourself as someone that can be an asset in the writer's room. And of course, I'll go into what it means to be in a writer's room and what a writer's room is. And, I feel like I want to really champion those writers, because I feel like when people jump into the writer's world, it's like, I just got to type something up and hand it in. No, people want you to do the dog and pony show. People want you to be a brand. People want you to be the expert on this. And so in my webinar, I'm going to be showcasing that along with a lot of other things, anecdotes, miserable occurrences that unfortunately happened, and things that I would do differently. So I'm excited for folks to take a look at it. Spots are filling up. We're really close to the tipping point now. So today is actually the last day to register. You can register at www.100percentprofessional.com. That's 100 spelled out. If you have any questions, you can contact me at my email address, which is contact@samirgardezi.com. And if you mention Zaki's show, I'll give you a $10 discount. So originally it's $25. It'll be $15. So $15, free information. I don't think anyone can go wrong. And you have free replay access for 24 hours. So I'm hoping this will be a good resource for people that are interested in doing it. And if this goes well, if I get a good response, it's just something that I'd love to do in the future. Really paying it forward and giving back.
That is super cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Wow. So is this something that, how are you going to, quickly would you want to follow up and do another one, or is it just something you're leaving open?
So I'd ideally want to do something that's a little bit more intensive. I think that this one's probably a sampler, if you will, of all these various type of things. But I think that to be able to delve more into networking, to be able to delve more into what it looks like to actually pitch a show. And not just the idea of pitching a story. By pitching a show, I don't mean what's the idea to sell, or what's a sellable arena that you can go for. I'm talking more about the idea of, okay, these are the people that you're going to meet, and it's a 6-month process, and what does that look like? So, I'd love to piece it out into more specific topics in the future. And, instead of just simply an hour and a half, I'd love to do it for a much longer time and a smaller group of people.
Sure. Well, hey, so Bryan, how come you never thought of doing a webinar?
Well, it's funny. I was just going to.
How come you failed, Bryan?
That's what my webinar is about. It's called "Why Didn't I?" But I was going to ask, how does a webinar work exactly?
Yeah, I had no idea how a webinar worked either, and so essentially, it actually works through Google Hangouts, so the platform that we're using. And so basically people are going to be able to log in, and it'll be, a comfortable software that most people know about using Google Hangouts. And then this other software known as Webinar Jam is kind of the skin of it. So with that, there'll be a chat box. You can ask questions. You can actually answer polls. There can be offers that you can look at. So it can be as intimate or as glance heavy as you want. So, but I think that the way that I'm going to be definitely using is that doing an interactive portion, making sure that I answer people's questions, but at the same time also, relay a host of information as well.
Nice.
And you get to be in your pajamas, which I think I should have.
Right.
That's probably the most important thing.
Well, you won me over because, as I mentioned earlier on the show, that's my criterion for doing anything. Do I get to keep my jammies on? So this is win-win. So, where can people go online again, just in case?
It is 100percentprofessional.com, all spelled out. And if you have any questions, you can email me at contact@samirgardezi.com or tweet me at samirgardezi.
Awesome. Well, and can you stick around a little bit? We're going to talk some headlines before.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, so last week the trailer for Captain America: Civil War dropped, and this is kind of interesting actually because it's supposed to be in front of Star Wars: The Force Awakens, but Disney did something pretty smart actually, which is they got it out a couple weeks early and let Captain America get kind of all the airtime to himself before the Star Wars machine kicks in.
Right.
It's kind of smart. So let's go ahead and play some of the audio from that, and then we can talk about it.
Stay out of this one. Please. You'll only make this worse.
You saying you'll arrest me?
There will be consequences.
Captain?
You seem a little defensive.
Well, it's been a long day.
If we can't accept limitations, we're no better than the bad guys.
That's not the way I see it. Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
Okay, so Captain America: Civil War opens next year. We're already getting getting our look at it. And what are your thoughts on it, Samir? Let's start with you.
I think it looks amazing. I'm actually more excited by this than Batman versus Superman, actually. So this is something that I just feel like in terms of just what they built up to. That's what excites me, is that all the lead ups through the second Avengers and to get us to this point. I'm like, okay, like from a character level, I'm like, okay, this is a nice, interesting turn, and it's going to be cool to see what transpires. Having said that, I'm not privy to the comic book at all, so I don't know. This is how it ends up. So I'm really looking at it from fresh eyes.
Yeah. Well, and my understanding is that they've basically taken the name of the comic series called Civil War, and that's about it. I think doesn't seem like this. I mean, I don't remember it that well. It came out about more than 10 years ago at this point, but seems like the basic premise. But beyond that, they're kind of doing their own thing.
Because they have to move forward with what the films have set up.
The movies have the further along the movies get, the further away they get from the comics, which is I mean that's fine with me. But Brian, I'm curious about your take on this because you were suffering from superhero fatigue, superhero burnout. Where are you at with this now?
Well, I completely agree with Samir because we have gotten way invested with these characters. I mean, years and years and years of investment with these guys, and I don't really care if they fight more aliens.
Sure.
So this just feels like the natural progression. Like, okay, I know these guys, I like these guys. Let's see them deal with some sort of entirely different conflict, and seeing them, have conflict with each other now is really interesting. And I feel like we know them well enough, and we know their quirks and differences well enough that we can buy it, and probably side with both of them for different reasons, and I'm just curious where this whole thing is going to go. I'm excited to see these characters do something different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm excited. Well, I was going to say that it's by the Russo brothers again, and I
was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I really loved the last Captain America, Winter Soldier. I felt like that one even felt like a departure a little bit from. Well, it felt tonally in line with everything else. It just felt like a whole different sort of level of I don't know threat. It felt like we keep saying this. It felt like a spy movie rather than superheroes fight aliens movie.
Well, I think to go back to your vernacular, Brian, it didn't have the blue beam shooting into the sky,
right?
As
right.
The finale, right?
Yeah.
I think having just rewatched it recently, I think what I love about it is that it's not this big alien invasion or anything like that. It's the final conflict is these two guys just beating each other up and essentially Captain America saying, I'm not going to fight you,
Mm-hmm.
And that's so much more dramatic than buildings falling down and just kind of, I mean, we've gotten deadened to the same old thing a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean we can't go back to it, but I mean, we don't want to see it over and over.
And over.
We want, yeah.
Well, I think I've said this before on the show. The Marvel movies I'm least excited about are the two Infinity War movies.
Sure.
Right.
Because I'm just like, I know that it's just going to be a bunch of special effects.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I will say this. I was not blown away by this trailer. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, that looks like, okay, I'll be watching that,
Sure.
And because it's almost like we know what to expect from the Marvel movies. We know the highs and the low. We know basically what the range is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this looks like it'll be in that range.
They've become sort of comfort food. Like I don't necessarily anticipate them anymore.
Sure.
A, because I'm very familiar with them and they bring, a lot of the same. But at the same time, we know they're coming. It's not like an event.
Like Bond movies.
It's like flying in the airplane, right? Like Louis C.K.'s joke. Like we should all be like saying, "Oh my God, I'm flying in a chair." And I think that's what the Marvel movies have become to a certain extent.
It's so true.
They're ubiquitous now.
Because think about it. I mean, like this is an occurrence within the last 10 years, 11 years, 10 years, less than 10 years.
Yeah.
And God, how ungrateful we've become.
It's so true.
I had a quick question for you guys. So, in watching the trailer, did you feel like the movie would lean one way or another in terms of who we'd be rooting for?
That's interesting.
Whether it's Captain America or Iron Man. I mean, do you think that it's going to be this ideological war? Because I think that Batman versus Superman kind of hit that over the head a lot harder. I was just curious to hear what you guys thought about that.
For me, just from the trailer, I actually like the fact that you can definitely see both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the fact that they don't rest so much on the ideological split, but on the personal split, which I think is more compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when Captain America is like, Bucky's my friend, and Iron Man is like, so was I.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somebody online did a thing where they played that, and then the camera zooms out, and Bart Simpson's like, "Hey, you can pinpoint the part where his heart breaks." Like, let's watch that again, which I thought was really funny. I think that this is what I remember about the comic was that it stacked the deck too much in Captain America's favor. At least from this trailer, it seems like they're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is Iron Man saying? He's like, we shouldn't be able to operate without constraints. There should be some oversight. And you listen to that as like an average person, you're like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Right.
You know? And yet we're conditioned to be like, but Captain America is like the pinnacle of good. So he's got to have a point too that and I hope that the movie does that. I hope it doesn't essentially make Tony Stark the heel. I'm not interested in that.
Right.
Oh, wrestling terminology.
I know, right?
Love it.
And it's funny because this arrives, like you said, 1 month after Batman vs. Superman, which is doing, in essence, the same story, which is, Hero A versus Hero B. And, I mean, my gosh, I'm going in and I'm like, you know what? I want both of them to be good. I would like nothing more than to love both of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
But to see the commentary online where it's this, you have the DC fans and you have the Marvel fans and they're just tearing into each other. I'm like, you losers, all of you.
Why not both?
I mean,
Yay!
Yeah.
Did you guys see speaking of sneak peeks? I mean, there was like a minute thing that they showed, I think during Gotham, if I'm not mistaken, of Batman vs. Superman. Did you guys see that?
Yeah. I only reservation I had, and this is just coming out of left field, was that it felt like Batman was wearing a trench coat that Raphael wore from and that just took me out of it so much. Like I was just like, that classic, like you can see like Raphael like walking around and then he runs into Casey Jones.
You expect Elias Koteas to show up.
Yeah. It was just, who wears? Is that a thing that people even wear? I don't know.
Because it fit over his
That's my commentary.
Well, those things that stick out of his glove, those like 3 blades, they fit. I noticed that the coat went over the blades.
Yeah.
It was like that. Oh man, that is such perfect encapsulation of that. Yeah.
That's very funny. I didn't even think about that, but like now that you mentioned that, I'm like, yes, that is what that's what my mind was jumping to. That's very funny.
That's funny.
Funny. But either way, both of those are coming out a month apart, and they were originally supposed to go head to head, so it would have been Batman versus Superman versus Captain America versus Iron Man. So I'm glad that they.
I have a feeling that this is also going to be the summer of sleeper hits. I just feel like I think people are going through superhero fatigue. Like I just think that there's only so much people can take. I think not even superhero fatigue, blockbuster fatigue.
Yeah,
I think people are going to want smaller stories again. I think this happened like, a decade ago too. I remember in 2005, summer 2005, it was like, the death of the blockbuster. So I'm also excited about the movies that I haven't heard about yet that I may have to watch because this movie is sold out.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, but when you think about it, in 2005, you had Batman Begins, which arguably was up to that moment kind of the pinnacle of what the superhero genre could be.
Mm-hmm.
And arguably, when you look at from Batman Begins to now, everything that's come after, certainly the Marvel Studios films, they were indebted to the Christopher Nolan approach, which is grounded and realistic. Nolan is a little bit more serious than the Marvel movies, but I mean, he played it straight, right? And I think it's kind of interesting to look at how the genre has twisted and turned since then.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we do have some other headlines to discuss, and speaking of characters that just keep coming back, we have this. I don't know. We have a Rambo TV series on the way,
and I am just dying to know.
Well,
Zaki, what do you think, Zaki?
It's going to be Rambo training the son of Brian Dennehy's character from First Blood.
Of course.
No, I have no idea, but I hope that's what it is. It's produced by Sylvester Stallone. He's involved in some capacity. It's called Rambo New Blood.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's about Rambo's son, Rambo and his son.
Yeah. See, I wish it was called Rambo and Son.
Oh, Rambo and Son.
Yeah, I would have preferred that. But this is per Deadline. It's about the complex relationship between Rambo and his son, J.R.
John Rambo's son, J.R.
So J.R., yeah. An ex-Navy SEAL. And
Is it set in present?
That's in the present, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't say what network, is it? Is that...
What's that?
I don't think it does. I said I don't think it says what network, right? It's just something that's being.
No, it's for Fox. It's for Fox.
Oh, Fox. Okay.
Yeah. Because of course, Fox.
Do you think because it wouldn't make sense casting wise to have like Vietnam War doesn't seem like it'd be part of the picture because it seems like that'd be aging the character a lot, or I don't know. Am I not doing my math correctly? Like I'm curious if they. Like if they say like, oh, it's the Gulf War, like this is the trauma that John Rambo went through, or whether they're going to keep it back to the the original story.
Well, it's about Rambo and his son. So Rambo Jr. would be the main character.
Yeah.
And then
he would have had his war and.
Yeah, and then John Rambo Jr. had a similar horrible situation come up, I guess, and he's just as damaged as Dad. This sounds terrible, is my point.
It's just highlighting that there's lots of wars that have happened since First Blood.
You know what? I am about as big a fan of the Rambo movies as you're gonna find. I will defend First Blood as a legit good movie beyond just being an action flick. I think it's like one of the best thrillers of since of the 80s. This is a terrible idea.
When I hear that they want it to be a Fox series, I immediately have a vision in my mind.
Yeah.
But if you told me this was like a 6-episode Netflix event, I'd be like, oh, really? Go on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just
that's very true.
Stretch it out to series and network. The good networks can bring a lot of great things, but they also have to deliver on a lot of other things, and they have to reach a lot more people and whatnot. And it just feels like the thing you might hope for out of this character, if it's going to be taken seriously, will probably have to be, dampened a little bit. And
well, remember the last Rambo movie has him ripping people's throats out with his bare hand.
Right.
I will miss that. What's Rambo without the throat ripping?
And what are they going to go? What adventures are they going to go on every week? I mean, is this going to be a serialized thing?
Like Hunter?
It'll be. Oh God! What's funny is that's exactly what I was thinking about was Hunter, because Hunter was the TV version of Dirty Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it's terrible, but it lasted like 8 seasons because people enjoyed terrible crap in the 1980s.
Well, will Sylvester Stallone be playing Rambo? If it's about him and his son, and he's producing it, I mean, is he going to appear as?
So he'll pop up every now and then.
Yeah.
He'll be like, "Hey yo,
what you been up to lately?
Yeah, you don't call anymore.
Saving a village? That's great."
It'll be like very obviously like they got Stallone when he had a free moment and they shot him like, completely separately. He's on the other end of a phone call. It's like on Three's Company when Suzanne Summers was having like a contract dispute. So to punish her, they just shot her completely separately. And like Chrissy was on vacation, so she'd just call in once an episode. Like, "Hi, I'm Chrissy."
I'm still here.
It'll be exactly like that. Yeah. Anyway, so that's happening, or it may not happen. I'm actually predicting it won't happen, but we will see.
Mm-hmm. So,
Samir, I know you need to jet.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show, Zaki. Again, if you guys want to check out the webinar, it's at www.100percentprofessional.com. Registration actually ends today. Mention Zaki's podcast. Shoot me an email at contact@samirgardezi.com, and I'll give you $10 off. So, guys, thank you again, and have a wonderful night.
Thanks.
Morning.
You too, man. Take care.
Take care. So, moving on, we do have some other headlines to discuss. And this I'm actually curious to get your take on this. This is kind of a first, and it is the Mission Impossible franchise, which has been around for 20 years, has had a different director for every single installment.
And I think we would all agree to its benefit.
For the most part. Some better than others.
Whether or not they always delivered, it's kept the series fresh.
It has. Now, we both loved Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and it was directed and written by Christopher McQuarrie. And apparently Tom Cruise loved him so much that he'll be back. So for the first time in the Mission Impossible series, we will have the same director 2 movies in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, which it does feel a little odd because, like we said, that's sort of been the appeal of this series, is that a new voice has come in, and for better or for worse, but mostly for better, kept the series, it's always felt a little the same, but a little different in a good way. It's interesting. I don't know if you ever listened to the podcast, The Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith.
I have, actually. I have,
yes. Yeah. And for listeners, if you're interested in screenwriting and filmmaking, highly, highly recommended. But anyway, there was a great episode with Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, and it was very telling. I don't know if you did you hear that episode?
I have not.
Tom Cruise apparently has found his guy. He loves Christopher. It sounds like, I think what it is I forget which film. I feel like it was Valkyrie. I want to say was whether Christopher was like the head.
He polished the script.
Yeah, he polished it, I think. And ever since then, Cruise has brought him on to every project he's done ever since. And it sounds like, especially when they were making Mission Impossible 5, it sounds like they had a very, very close working relationship.
He didn't polish the script. He actually co-wrote it.
Okay. But then
which makes sense, actually, because he wrote Usual Suspects. So Bryan Singer did both of those.
Of course.
Okay, yeah.
And then he polished Edge of Tomorrow.
That's correct.
And then he wrote and directed Jack Reacher, and now Mission Impossible, and now he's going to be doing the Jack Reacher sequel. I don't think he's directing it. I think he's writing it, right?
He did write the sequel, yes.
Right, but he's not directing it. And then now, yeah. So anyway, it just sounds like him and Cruise have just found they're very simpatico, and they see it eye to eye on stuff, and they've delivered on all the things that they've.
And actually, just to correct, he's not involved with the Jack Reacher sequel.
Oh, he's not at all.
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's called Jack Reacher Never Go Back.
Okay.
Never go back to Christopher McQuarrie when it comes.
But, he'll probably be busy writing Mission Impossible 6, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I don't know. I liked 5 a lot. I felt like it had kind of an interesting voice where it remained fun and poppy, but at the same time, there was like weight and threat and danger to it all, which I feel like a lot of films recently have not had, which is why I didn't enjoy them so much. I felt like it was the perfect blend of what I guess I go to a mission for a Mission Impossible film. So yeah, I don't know if Cruise and him have cracked some idea that they think is great for the next one. I'm sure I'm probably going to like it. What do you think?
If it was John Woo coming back, I'd be a little bit more irked about it.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I'm kind of like if Brad Bird came back, I'd be like, all right. If Abrams came back, I'd be like, okay. So to me, it's like one of the good ones is coming back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. And I mean, Christopher McQuarrie was in movie jail because of Way of the Gun flopping spectacularly, and he said as much that Tom Cruise basically gave him his career back.
Right.
So that's nice.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I'm
sweet.
already looking forward to it. So
Yeah. And when is it scheduled to come out? Do we know?
that's a good question. I don't know.
Well, in a couple of years.
If I had to guess, if they're really moving forward with it, 2017, something like that.
Which would be at a ridiculously short gap, considering usually they make these movies whenever they feel like it.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I was just thinking like on typical blockbuster timeline, but yeah, no, that'd be great if it was. Make it good. I don't care when it comes out. Make it good.
Yeah, I think it's 2017. Yeah, but another sequel, which I've been contending all along, will not happen. And you know what? It's worked for Donald Trump. Deny. So here I go. This will never happen. But apparently, they're making 3 more Prometheus movies. They start filming in a few months, but it will not happen.
How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good, to be honest. So Prometheus, you know what? I've been saying this from the beginning. This has become like a running joke on this show because every couple of months I'm like, they're making the Prometheus movie that no one's asking for.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the movie's called Alien Covenant. And it's meant to now connect the dots even more so to the original excellent 1979 Alien. So the goal, according to Ridley Scott, is to go from Prometheus through however many more of these friggin' things he's going to make that basically lead up to the very beginning of the first Alien movie. Which why do we need that movie? Why do we need that story told? There's nothing in the first Alien movie that needs any further elucidation than what is in that movie.
You don't want to know where those things came from, who made them, why?
I really don't.
Oh, well, then you're probably not going to like these movies.
Well, I mean, you tell me, right? I mean, you've seen Alien.
Yes.
You've seen Aliens.
I have.
The creatures function as they're a boo. You know what I mean? I don't need. It's like when I watch a ghost story, I don't need the movie about how the person that's a ghost became a ghost.
Right.
Because whatever I need is in that movie. I'm not interested in how the aliens were created, and it's not interesting to me. You know. We talked in our Star Wars commentary. We talked about how, you know, there's stuff in Star Wars where it's just like texture. It adds texture to the universe, and in Alien, that's kind of the analogy I make, where you have the crew of the Nostromo and they wander into the alien ship and they see these petrified giant alien bodies, and with a cavity where the alien burst out of, and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but I never felt the need to be like, oh my gosh, what's their story? I don't need it.
Yeah.
And Prometheus gave us who they are, and I'm like, well, I don't really care about that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the fact that I don't get it. It's almost it feels like a threat to me that Ridley Scott's like, you're getting 3 more of these things. You know, I don't understand it.
Is it the plan for him to do all of them?
I think
he's going to make it his business.
He will be involved at the very least as a producer. He actually said that his regret was not being involved with the Alien sequels. Which I think is so fascinating because it makes me wonder what he thinks of James Cameron's movie.
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know, because he's looking at it like he's looking at Alien the way Steven Spielberg looks at Jaws.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
You know, and because Spielberg has said as much, right? That's the reason that he remains involved in these franchises like Jurassic Park, because he doesn't want what happened to Jaws to happen. To I'm kind of like, I feel like that's almost like in a candid moment. What does Ridley Scott actually think of James Cameron's Aliens movie? Because for many people, they prefer the Cameron movie to the Ridley Scott one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and he may be a fan of it, but then
sure. I'm not saying he does, but I'm curious what he thinks of it.
Yeah.
I do think it, and we talked about this last time, that the Neil Blomkamp Aliens sequel, which would have overwritten Alien 3 and 4, is now on indefinite hold as a result of Ridley Scott's Alien plans.
Maybe it will be a part of them.
Well, I mean, it obviously doesn't dovetail in any way with what he's planning. So it would have to be, if it's going to happen at all, it'll happen after he's done with his story.
Right.
Unless we want the Alien shared universe.
It's true. Have to jump around in time.
Well, actually, we have the Alien shared universe. What am I talking about? Because Predator exists in the
Predator, right?
Yeah. Which, by the way, the next Predator movie, apparently the script has just been turned in. And it's going to be directed by Shane Black.
Yeah, co-written by him too.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to say about that. Bring back Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're gonna, what else can you do with that franchise but bring back Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes, exactly.
Right. And when you think about it, I mean, that's like arguably, I mean, it's not iconic like Terminator iconic, but that's one of his more iconic roles.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. I would be fully on board with it. I mean, that's the thing. When you're going to revisit these things all these years later or make these sequels, really bring in the thing that we actually liked about the first one.
Right.
So I say go for it. That'd be great.
And Shane Black is involved. I think that seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But before we get to the main event for this episode, do we have any Star Wars news? Think about this, Brian. This is weird, man. This is our last hey, Star Wars news before Star Wars.
That is true. We started this years ago.
Yeah.
Because we were getting all these little tidbits and all these, it was all about anticipation.
And it just became this thing where like, you know what, we should just make this a regular segment.
Yeah, because we were going to look at all this stuff anyway. We were excited about it. We wanted to talk about it. And you're right. And it's all led up to this.
Wow. So go on.
Well, first thing I'll say is, as much as I'm looking forward to a new Star Wars film, I am almost equally looking forward to a new John Williams score.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Right? And with the prequels, I think the scores came out about a month before the film, and I would buy them, a month before, and I would listen to them, enjoy them, and blah, 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 blah. Well, this score is not coming out until the day either of or after the film comes out, because sometimes the track listings, the names of each song can spoil the film. But someone put them out there anyway. So have you seen this? The track listing?
I heard that this is out there, and I remember how the Phantom Menace effed me in the A. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a track called Qui-Gon's Funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
so I was like, I'm not making that mistake again. So I'm on complete radio silence. And actually, the nice thing is that I don't know if you do this, but these days I'll pre-order a soundtrack through iTunes.
Oh.
And so it'll just download to my phone automatically, or it'll get added to my library. So the cool thing is that I can just listen without even needing to know what track I'm listening to.
That's if it had come out early, I still would have bought it early and not looked at the names. Mm-hmm. But that said, I have no interest in checking this out until I've seen the film.
That's pretty much me. Yeah. So, but what is the street date for is it going to be the 19th or the week before, or the 11th?
I want to say it's the 18th. Actually, I think the thing is,
so the day of release,
because they're showing the film on the 17th, and that's the night that I'm going. I've sort of moved it to the 17th in my mind, but 18th is the actual.
See, what's interesting is that I don't know if you're aware of this, but new CD release date has changed from where it was traditionally, which is Tuesdays, to Fridays now.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. I read it had something to do with shipping, shipment. It used to be on Tuesday because of whatever shipping details make that most convenient. I don't know, but
yeah, some such thing. But so that's
some such thing. Exactly.
That's the situation there. But what else, Brian?
Well, it seems like George Lucas has been doing the rounds a little bit. I don't know if he's been doing the rounds or if people are just like leaking out little tidbits of this conversation piecemeal here. But Lucas has been, well, interestingly enough, right, as he is the person who has sold off Lucasfilm and Star Wars and let someone else go ahead and make their thing. And as we're on the eve of that coming out, he is now all of a sudden talking about Star Wars again and his feelings on Star Wars and his feeling on the sequels. And it's kind of hard not to feel like he might be a little, I don't know if bitter. Bitter is too strong a word, but just a little bit like watching and being in a restaurant and seeing your ex-girlfriend with a new boyfriend from across the way. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from him.
So do you think he regrets selling Star Wars, selling Lucasfilm?
I bet if you really sat him down and you really got him to open up and answer, no.
Okay.
But it's impossible to divorce yourself from the feelings you must feel for that. Because it's funny, just even in real life with a relationship, they say it takes half the time you were with someone to get over them.
Yeah.
Right. And this has been a part of his life for what? Like almost 40 years, something like that.
Right.
So, I mean, it would be impossible not to feel like a little weird feeling in your chest seeing your universe on display and you had nothing to do with it. And not only that, but in these interviews, I don't have this specific quote in front of me, but he was talking about how, frustrating it is. You work really hard on something and you put it out there and then everyone just destroys it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's, I feel bad about that, because we talked about it this last week on the commentary. I mean, if like or dislike whatever has emerged under the Star Wars umbrella or anything else, I mean, it's, think of all the joy that you've gotten out of Star Wars.
Oh man. Right.
I want to share a comment that a friend of mine named Eric San Juan made, and Eric is also the co-author of Geek Wisdom, which is a book that I was very privileged to work on. And he read the same interview that you're talking about, the Washington Post one, and this is his quote. He says, "I genuinely empathize with the guy. The way he's now savaged is merciless and cruel, especially given all the joy his creation has given people. So he made a few later installments that couldn't measure up to the originals. So what? Take a pass on them and move on. He's not the first to make some so-so or even bad movies. Big deal. A subpar movie is harmless. But the internet has turned every mention of his name into a hateful bitch fest. Can you imagine that as your fate? Create one of the most beloved pieces of pop entertainment in recent history, and at the same time become the whipping boy for millions of frustrated geeks everywhere. Some of his recent interviews make me so sad. He knows what people say about him. The man has become a punchline for a bunch of people who have hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of merchandise built around his creation. What a bizarre situation. Prequels or no prequels, George frickin' Lucas deserves better than that. Even if he didn't create Star Wars. Star Wars! He also seems to be a genuinely good man who treats people well and who'll leave behind a legacy of giving, not to mention Star Wars. In a world where it's sometimes easy to think that good people are becoming a rarity, that ought to be worth something."
That's a great quote.
Isn't it?
I wish that quote was being coupled with all of these articles about George Lucas right now.
Yeah. So well said, Eric.
Yeah, very well said. It's funny. I was actually going to go into more of the quotes that Lucas said, but I felt like that's the best way to end it right there.
Well, there we go. So we'll be talking about Star Wars: The Force Awakens next time, and we'll be longing for George Lucas probably, right?
And we'll be giving him a little salute and a warm nod.
You know what's funny though is I said this before on the show, and I think I still believe it, that there'll come a point within the Disney era of Star Wars that people will long for the George Lucas days.
How do you mean?
Because at some point, because people love to just bitch and complain, and so they'll be like, "Oh, Disney ruined it," and blah blah blah, and I liked Star Wars and it was like this, and that'll be completely divorced from any actual thing. But you know that's going to happen.
Yes. And it's funny, as you said that, what it makes me think is, yes, that's probably going to happen. But it's also interesting that we don't only have the original trilogy, which is beloved, and then the Disney thing. Mm-hmm. We also have this other thing, which is also from Lucas, but is not beloved, feels different, doesn't seem to fit in with the thing that we love. So it's almost like a cushion for what's to come next.
Okay.
It might feel different, but it won't feel like the thing we don't like.
Okay, that's a good point.
I wonder if that'll help.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Well, regardless, that'll be a conversation we need to have in a couple weeks.
In 10 years, I guess. Well, for that whole thing.
We'll start the conversation in a few weeks, and then it'll continue by dribs and drabs for several years.
For years to go.
But we do have a spoiler conversation for this week, and that is Creed. Now, I have to be honest, this is a movie that I think was second only to Star Wars in terms of my anticipation for it.
Wow.
I have to be very honest. Rocky Balboa is a beloved character to me. Has been such an important figure in my life, and I remember watching Rocky Balboa, the last one in 2006, and I felt like, okay, I got to spend a little bit more time with somebody who I never thought I'd see again, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. But I've just said goodbye, and it's like being said, no, you're going to get to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was like. And I think I said this a few weeks ago. The fact that I would get to hang out with Rocky Balboa and Han Solo within weeks of each other. It's amazing.
Right?
So I loved Creed. This is the 7th installment in the Rocky series. It's the first installment in the Creed series, which will presumably launch its own thing. It was made for $35 million. It opened to $42 million, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's well on its way to potentially hitting 150 million, which is, my gosh, who would have predicted that even 6 months ago? Reviews have been phenomenal, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. This, of course, it stars Michael B. Jordan as the son of Apollo Creed. He is Adonis Creed, and Sylvester Stallone is back as his most famous character. Despite John Rambo's protests, Rocky Balboa is still his most famous character. Brian, I haven't talked to you about this at all. What did you think of Creed?
I like the Rocky films, but I'm not nearly as close to them as you are. Mm-hmm. And so when I heard that this movie was coming out, that was like okay, nice. Like, yeah, I'll check that out. And it really took me by surprise, the reception that this movie got. I mean, the reviews were just crazy. The things I was reading online were just so positive. It almost made me nervous because that happened to me earlier this year with Inside Out, where people were just like totally building up this film. And when I saw it, I was like, yeah, it was good, kind of a thing. And I got a little nervous. So I went and saw Creed last night after hearing all these things. I hadn't read your review, but I saw you gave it an A. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh boy. Honestly, I was a little nervous going into it. And I really, really like this movie.
Oh, okay. See, I had my finger hovering over the eject thing on Google Chat. I was ready to finish out the show on my own if you disliked it.
Here's I'm going to tell you in one little example, even though there are several, why I like this movie so much. And it's because, look, I think we've talked about this before with either sports films or / boxing movies. Mm-hmm. They're all the same.
Yes.
Right. It's like there's the arc of them is just inevitably going to be pretty much the same. It's just, what do you do with what's within that arc? Right. And so going into this movie, I kind of was feeling that, like, I kind of know where this is going to go and whatnot. But there was a moment, and there's, several training montages in here. And there was a moment during the training montage where I wanted to leave the montage and go back to Creed talking with his girlfriend. And I was like, that's a good movie. When you actually have me equally as interested, not in necessarily his sports journey, but in his relationship with his girlfriend. I was like, you just created characters and a story that's a good film. That's not just like let's go watch this guy, see if he triumphs. Like, they created characters I care about. And I feel like, and I saw this in some interview somewhere where they were saying, she wasn't the girl.
Right.
Like, she actually felt like a realized character. And Rocky isn't just the mentor. I was wondering if he would be in, say, like a quarter of this movie. Right. You know what I mean? Where they put him in the trailers and try to hook you in with Sylvester Stallone. I mean, this is Michael B. Jordan's film, no doubt. But Sylvester Stallone, playing Rocky, he is woven through the entire film. He is the second lead character in this movie. And he is a great character. He has a fantastic arc. This is just a good movie.
Yeah.
Right. And that really caught me by surprise.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, and it's a thumbs up from both of us. Should we get into some spoilers?
Let's do it.
So, I mean, I think what's so interesting is that, and I was talking to a friend who was like, it's so sad to see Rocky so old now,
Yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of interesting for people of our generation and older to see that because the character has been around for so long, and we've watched him age in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in essence, you see the passage of your own years,
right?
And like I was 4, when I saw Rocky 2. That's the first one that I ever saw, and I literally grew up watching these as most of us 80s kids did, except you, Brian, I think.
Yeah. Well, I still haven't seen 2 and 3, honestly.
Wow.
I've seen 1, 4, 5, 6.
Wow. Interesting. You still come on.
Still haven't seen 2 and 3. Yeah.
But it's just the character is like, you can't help but love him.
Yes.
And so, and part of that is because we share this history together. Like we've known each other for so long. Right. And what this movie does is, by virtue of making him the supporting character, it makes us conscious of his mortality in a way we wouldn't otherwise have been.
Interesting.
Right? Because we're now very aware that the story can and will continue, and it's entirely possible that Rocky does not need to be part of this story anymore.
Wow. That's a great point. Absolutely. I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
I mean, it's the equivalent of it's like Mickey, right? In the original Rocky, who's played by Burgess Meredith.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a boxer, and this, so in other words, he has this whole story too, before Rocky meets him. And it's the equivalent of Rocky's entry into this story, right? It's like history is about when we happen to enter the story.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole bunch of history before and a bunch of history after.
Yeah.
And so what this, by virtue of this kind of being a passing of the torch movement, it's this moment where we become acutely aware of how history and time march on. And that doesn't mean that all the participants get to stay around.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think that Sylvester Stallone is guaranteed to get nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be very surprised if he wasn't.
And just beyond there's like the narrative of, that's his breakout role and he came back to it. But I mean, he acts the hell out of it.
Oh man. And what I think is interesting too is I had read somewhere that this was something that Ryan Coogler had to pitch to Sylvester Stallone, and he did this before he made Fruitvale Station. I think he was in pre-production when he pitched this.
That's right.
Stallone, and then Stallone came on as a producer, and I'm sure he helped shape, guide, whatever. And I read in an interview where they said, "How did Stallone feel about playing the old version of this character?"
Yeah.
And him revisiting those steps in Philadelphia, but having to be helped up them at the end of the film. And he said, Stallone was game for anything as long as it made sense to him. And to me, I read that between the lines that he probably wasn't game for that at first, but then he was led to understand why that would, be beneficial to the story. And I got to say, that moment just, punched me in the gut.
At the very end, you mean?
At the very end,
absolutely.
Creed's son is helping Rocky up those steps we watched him race up in the first film.
I know.
And it's beautiful. It's really a beautiful circle right there. And I think I wondered too, even this morning, just independently, I started thinking about the film, and I wondered if being a little bit older too has something to do with it, where, you get to an age where you start losing some people, and like life becomes this thing where you're like, oh, we don't live forever and whatnot. And there was this beautiful, like, mortality sort of moment where it's like we saw him in his prime and when everything started, and now we're seeing him as things are winding down for this guy.
I know.
And
I mean, he has, he gets this cancer diagnosis, and I was actually thinking about this, like he gets this cancer diagnosis and he says, I don't want to do anything about it. and Adonis, Donnie's like, why? And he says, if I could take every moment, every good moment and just put it in a bowl and just give all of that for one more day with my wife, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I felt my eyes just getting moist because it was just, again, because we know him, we know his wife, we know his life. We've been with him on this journey, and it just tears your heart out.
Yeah.
And I have to give it up for Stallone for being willing to do that, for being willing to take not just himself, but take this character.
Yes.
And make this character so vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just worked for me on so many levels.
Well, what do you think of Adonis Creed? I mean, I let me start. I'll say real quick. My first thought actually was I thought I was going to have a hard time tracking with him because he starts off rich.
That's right.
And I was like, well, he's leaving a good job. He's impossibly rich. He's had a troubled upbringing, but like he's very comfortable right now. And I was like, how am I going to root for this guy? I actually had that thought.
Absolutely. Me too.
To the movie's credit, you freaking do. You know what I mean?
There's the moment, and I think we're talking about the same thing, where it's the last round. Why do you need to do this?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And the movie made me feel that before it got me there.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It didn't feel that is a line you could just throw in there to cheat. And I mean, we're in the spoiler well, so he basically said to prove I'm not a mistake.
Yeah, and that's something.
Because he was born, his father had an affair and had him.
Right.
So, but you sense that throughout the movie. Like that moment is completely earned and not just this like, oh, here's his reason. We'll give him this line that hopefully people will go, to at the end.
Right.
Right. The movie got there. And that's why this movie is so great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think Michael B. Jordan has been on the rise for many years now. This is it. He's a star now.
Mm-hmm.
He escaped Fantastic Four virtually unscathed.
Right.
I mean, he really did. Like nobody's like, oh, Michael B. Jordan screwed it up. I think Josh Trank sort of like fell on the bomb himself, whether deliberately or not. But I mean, the guy's got bags of charisma,
mm-hmm.
and he looks like Carl Weathers enough where you buy that he's his son.
Totally.
And I should share this. Actually, this is just funny. This is a picture that's been making its way around the internet where it's a picture of Dolph Lundgren at the Creed premiere, and somebody put it on Facebook and they just captioned it: "The MF that killed Apollo had the nerve to show up at the Creed premiere." Which I just thought was so funny.
That is hilarious.
But
I want to bring up also. I mentioned her earlier, but his girlfriend is played by Tessa Thompson.
Yeah.
They have their little meet cute, where he moves into his dumpy apartment and she's playing her music too loud and whatnot. And then you're like, okay, that's going to be the girl of the movie. And that's, the girl of the movie is always kind of fine. But then it's like she has her own sort of journey and she has degenerative, hearing loss.
Yeah.
And when they, showed her she wears these hearing aids. And I immediately was like, oh, you're killing me. Like, like now I'm in love with her, like she's got her own battle.
Yeah.
That she's going through and everything way that she reacts to there's a structure to a film that's inevitable where everything's got to fall apart at the end of the second act, blah, 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 blah.
Right. Exactly.
But everything in this movie, and those things do happen in here because this is a movie, right. but they all felt very organic. Any ups that they had felt organic, any downs that they had felt organic. And I was really, it wasn't just like, oh, the Elizabeth Shue character came to the karate tournament. You know what I mean? Like, because it was like, I was genuinely happy when she was there to support him. I was genuinely frustrated when he picked a fight with the person that was involved in her life. The headliner that she was opening for at the thing, even though that guy was being a jerk, it's just,
well, and not just that. I mean, look at the sequence that led to that point, which is, he finds out about Rocky's illness.
Yep.
And even then, right? Like Donnie is desperate for a father.
Yeah.
And essentially, his new father, who he's grown to love, says, "No, we're not. This isn't. You know,
killed me."
Right? And then he storms away, and then we linger
on
Rocky, saying, "What did you do? What did you say?" You know, I mean, it just plays on so many levels. You know, it's a human story. It's the original Rocky. Everything that made the original Rocky one of the greatest movies ever made, I saw it here.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
they didn't just try to hit all the beats. Like there was great care put into this story and into these characters, and it's evident.
So here's my question. It's inevitable that we're going to see further stories of this character. Does that concern you a little bit?
I would say it concerns me. I'm a little curious if they can keep it up.
Yeah.
I think that'll be tough. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. Whereas the Rocky movies in the 80s, I mean, like I said, I'm most familiar, and people might cringe, but I'm the most familiar with the fourth one. That's the one I've seen
where
the most.
He's like a friggin' superhero, basically.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to say is that's representative of its time.
Yeah.
Right? So then it just makes me wonder, you know, they have the excellent entry point for this character, just like Rocky 1. And now that you have this character and you've built up all this goodwill and whatnot, and we understand him, then you take him on a journey that's representative of our times now. You know, like maybe they'll get a little too gritty. Maybe they'll get a little too, he'll start robbing banks with high-speed car friends, you know, like Fast and Furious, like who knows what, whatever the times take it, it will go, and we'll probably go with it. But at least we got this great beginning to the character.
There we go. Okay.
And can we talk about the ending real quick before we wrap up, at least?
Yeah, of course.
I thought it was really interesting when they went to the final match. Just because I don't know if I want to say the times. I keep saying the times and whatnot, but like it just felt like they weren't going to let him lose. I didn't think the movie was going to let him lose.
Okay.
And then when he did, I was like, they did it. It just completely happened correctly, I felt. And it didn't betray like wherever journey the movie had laid out for itself. I'm having a hard time with my words right now. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like it just felt like at some point, because of all that he'd been through and the way that they were building everything up, it just felt like he had to win.
Sure.
And so I was very happy that it didn't go that route. And it happened in a way that was still satisfying.
Well, and I think, I was thinking about that, and I was like, had he won, it gives him less room to grow.
Right.
Right. And I mean, this is it. I mean, it's when you look at the first Rocky, right, it's not about winning the fight. He tells Adrian right before the fight, he's like, I just want to be standing when that last bell rings, right? I just want to know I can go the distance, right? And so for him, it was about his self-respect, right? And we see it most crystal clear in that moment where he's knocked out, and he's knocked the F out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets that flash of his father, and that's like a ghost, like it jolts him back. And it's like, again, it's just about finishing the match.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I get what you're saying because totally like we're not conditioned to expect the character to lose, but he doesn't lose really, right?
No, he gets what he wanted.
Exactly.
What he was searching for. And the movie does a great job of making us feel that, even though they gave us an ending that, might feel unsatisfactory if it hadn't been executed correctly.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just terrific film. One thing I will say is again, a sequel is pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point. One thing that I was thinking about was at some point we have to tell the story, which I don't want to see, which is goodbye to Rocky.
Did you think they were going to do it in this one?
I did not think they would do it in this one because I just felt like the whole point was you and me will fight together and we will give each other strength. So it would have felt like a betrayal of that idea. But at some point, I mean, if the hero's journey tells us anything, we have to separate from the mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, we talk about like it's all about when we enter the story. Well, at some point, we have to tell that story, and I don't know that I want that story.
Right.
So that's something to it's the example I always give is like Les Miserables, which we talked about earlier in the episode, but the film ends with the death of Jean Valjean.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the play ends. But there's an earlier film of Les Miserables, which is not a musical, and it stars Liam Neeson.
Right.
And that basically ends with the death of Javert, but Valjean walks away having now come to closure, and it's like credits. And I'm like, well, it's all about when you choose to exit the story, I guess,
Right, sure.
So it's kind of like, we said goodbye to Rocky 9 years ago. We just said goodbye to him again. At some point we have to really say goodbye. And,
right.
But when you think about it, I don't think there's precedent for this kind of a hero in films who we've followed for this many years, played by the same character.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably Indiana Jones, assuming Harrison Ford comes back. But even, at some point, probably most likely, there will be another Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Whereas there will never be another Rocky Balboa.
No.
So kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But any other thoughts about Creed as we wrap things up here?
No, just I would say you had it highly anticipated, but for me, I would say it was a real pleasant surprise.
There you go.
Yeah.
So whether anticipated or unanticipated, you will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like it, then you're a communist.
Like Trumbo.
Yeah, exactly. No, the bad kind, the kind that killed Apollo Creed. How do you feel?
Right.
But that wraps up this episode of the Movie Film Podcast. And don't miss in a few short weeks when we'll be talking about Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I know the countdown is on.
I know
we're going to be in single-digit days soon. Before you know it. But regardless, Brian, where can people find you online?
I think the best place they can find me is writing for the Bob's Burgers comic book, which we just had a trade paperback come out recently, which was kind of exciting to actually be published in something that has a spine and is glued
have
together.
Penthouse letters in the title.
Yeah, it was actually, I gotta say, it was quite exciting to hold it in my hand. So pretty excited about that if people want to check that out.
And are you on Twitter or anything like that?
You son of a bitch. I am on Twitter. I don't ever use it. It's at Everything Brian. If you shout out to me, I will shout out back, but that's probably the only way I will ever use it.
So people, will you just shout out to him? This poor, pathetic loser who he's not a pathetic loser. I'm just kidding. But he does have a Twitter, and he's a very funny guy. So I'm trying to encourage him to.
I know, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. But as far as our show, you can find us at facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast. We're also at moviefilmpodcast.com. If you have any questions or comments, you can shoot them there or email us at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can find me at zakiscorner.com. That's ZAKIS Corner. And that's also my Twitter handle. My movie reviews go up regularly at Huffington Post, as well as interviews and other odds and ends. And I feel like I have more to say, but maybe I don't. I think that's it.
Nice.
Yeah. So that wraps up this episode of the Movie Film Podcast. On behalf of my good friend Brian Hall, my name is Zaki Hassan. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, friends. It's the Movie Film Podcast. Movie Film Podcast. Enjoy the show. Zaki and Brian are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio.
But Disney did something pretty smart, actually, which is they got it out a couple weeks early and let Captain America get kind of all the airtime to himself before the Star Wars machine kicks in.
Right.
It's kind of smart. So let's go ahead and play some of the audio from that, and then we can talk about it. Brian, you want
to... pew, pew. Hey, no. Sorry.
I thought we were friends.
Yeah. This is a civil war.